All right, let's see. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm excited to have Jessica with me today, and we will get started in 1 minute. In 1 minute. So let's. Okay. If you guys could hear and see us, go ahead and I know we've been doing this since this morning. Just want to make sure you guys can hear and see us. Type 1 if you can hear or see us. If this is your first session, we would love to know about your business. So go ahead and type the name of your business in the chat and we'll get started. Awesome. Hey, Alexa. Hi, Evan. Welcome back. Hey, Darlene. All right. Awesome. Hey, Keena. Hey, Artie. Awesome. What are the businesses out there? Hi, Mosin. I know Evan from earlier. He is, his business is the Sign Store. I would love to know more businesses in the chat. Hey, Sierra. Okay. All right. So as we're getting started, I will go ahead and introduce our next session. So for this session, Jessica is going to be talking about a business plan overview. And Jessica is part of the SBDC, which is short for Small Business Development Center. And at the Small Business Development Center, we are able to have tools and they provide resources and training to help small businesses grow and succeed. They have they're designated as one of Georgia's top providers of small business assistance. The SBDC has 17 offices ranging from Rome to Valdosta to serve the needs of Georgia's business community. And we are blessed to have one here in Macon, which is awesome. Hey, and I see Trudy's in the chat. She's also part of the SBDC. So I will go ahead and let you take it away, Jessica, and thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much. We are very, very honored and thrilled to have been invited to be part of this program and this process. I take my hat off to all of you existing business owners and as well as all of you aspiring business owners that are out there today that are taking the leap and that are going through and pushing through very turbulent times to make your dream of being a small business owner and being an entrepreneur come true. And so thank you for having me. Again, it's an honor to be here, and I really, really hope that you guys get a lot out of this program that I plan on presenting to you today, because it is extremely important. So I will do my very best to make this as impactful as possible. So I'm going to start off by sharing my screen. Okay, perfect. And as discussed earlier, we will be discussing business plan. And this is just going to be really a high-level overview for you. A business plan is so in-depth that it is almost nearly impossible. We have an hour here today, and I could literally spend hours and hours and hours talking about a business plan, how to put together a business plan. Of course, everybody's business plan is different. So what we're going to do today is just kind of give you a very high-level overview of this process, what it looks like, in hopes that we can put you off on the right foot with that. As mentioned, I'm Jessica White. I'm a business consultant at the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center. I'm in the Macon office, and we actually did have 17 offices, but not too long ago, we added an additional office, and we now have 18 across the state. So we are strategically located in areas across the state so that any small business owner or aspiring small business owner can have convenient access to a small business development center. I am one of nearly 50 consultants. Our consultants all have advanced degrees in business. I have an MBA from Georgia College and State University, and we all have extensive backgrounds and experience in the business world. Mine happens to be in sales and marketing. I spent a few years in advertising sales, and then I also spent a little over 12 years in software sales and financial sales, so in the corporate world. So I am pleased to be here with you today. However, while we're all generalists, and my background happens to be sales and marketing, throughout the 50 consultants across the state, we have a variety of different levels of skill sets and expertise. So if there's any area of limitation that you would ever find with myself or any other business consultant, we can find somebody else that can help you. But I'm going to give you a snapshot here of what your Macon team looks like. That's Lisa Rackley. She's our area director. She has a skill set specifically in the area of human resources. Peter Williams comes to us with a very, very rich financial background and actually owned his own mergers and acquisitions company. Again, there's me, myself, and then there's our lovely Trudy Lawrence. She's on our call with us today, and she's basically the end-all be-all, the backbone of our office. And so if you call here, you might get her. She is our program coordinator, and any of us would be happy to speak with you or work with you anytime in the near future. As mentioned, we are the Small Business Development Center, and I'm just going to give you a very high-level overview of who we are and what we do. We provide confidential, no-cost consulting for existing and aspiring small business owners throughout the state. In addition to confidential business consulting, we provide research assistance as well as training. And we'll go into that a little bit more. And actually, you're getting the training as you see right here and right now. The confidential consulting can be anywhere from what you're seeing today, which is going to be business plans. We can help you with your loan proposals if you are going out and trying to acquire funding from, let's say, a bank or an investor. If you're an existing business and you're wanting to expand, you're going to need a business plan for that as well, so we can assist you there. We can also assist you in various other areas to include accounting, bookkeeping, marketing, operations, human resources, strategic planning. You name it. If it's business related, we can probably provide some guidance for you. Now, the difference between the Small Business Development Center and other typical commercial consulting firms, we don't actually write the business plan for you. We don't actually do the work for you. As a public service and outreach division of the University of Georgia, we pride ourselves still on being educators first and foremost. So the benefit that you get here is we don't just give you a fish for a day. We actually teach you to fish and hopefully feed you for a lifetime and witness growth and expansion with you as you go on throughout your career as an entrepreneur. But that's a little bit about who we are and what we do. We're very proud of what we can provide for Georgia small businesses, and I hope we can help some of you soon. Just a quick note here in terms of our training. Now, we usually, while we provide no cost consulting, we will often provide low to no cost training. So here in our past life, we were actually, all of our training courses were done on site at an SBDC center. So you would physically come in and I would work with you hands-on. However, obviously everybody's now gone to a virtual environment. And in that, we have received some funding from the CARES Act, which has enabled the SBDC to provide no cost training for the remainder of the year. So I do highly encourage you to go out to georgiasbdc.org and check out our training schedule and monitor that. And again, you can access any of these courses all across the state at no cost. After the first of the year, we may go back to our original model. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainties out there. But even then, just so you know, the cost is minimal. We do everything we can just to cover our own costs. So hope that we can actually continue to see you in other courses, both virtually and on site in the future. All right. So that's enough about us. Let's talk about you for a little bit. So we want to talk about a few things as it pertains to writing a business plan. And that can be, one, a lot of people have a misconception about a business plan and its overall purpose. So I'd really like to kind of dive into that with you and help you to really identify for yourself why you would need to write a business plan. We're going to also go through that and go through some business plan guidelines so that you can kind of understand some best practices and some proven tried and true principles when it comes to writing a business plan, what works, what doesn't, the do's and the don'ts. We're also from there, once we cover that, we're going to go into a business plan outline. And there could be, obviously, there's no cookie cutter approach to what a business plan can look like. So this will be very generalized. You would determine what yours would look like. However, we're going to give you some ideas in terms of what should be included. And then we'll go over the different sections of a business plan. Just so you know, there's typically 3 sections to a business plan. The first section being the narrative. This is the written portion of your business plan. And then there's section 2, which is the financial. And this is where we'll cover the numbers. And then section 3 is pretty much the appendix. And this is where you would include all of your sources, all of your supporting documents to back everything that you put into the business plan. So we're going to just dive a little bit, not going to go too deep, not going to get too technical, don't want to scare you off, but definitely want to make sure that you're aware and get a good feel today for what this will look like for you as you proceed forward. So let's start by talking about why you would want to write a business plan. Well, 3 reasons that we can discuss right off the bat is feasibility. You need to determine what the feasibility is of this business idea or this business concept. People come up with business ideas every single day. People come up with product inventions, but an idea alone will not get you where you want to go. What we have to do is look at various different factors here to determine if your idea is transformable into a real world concept. And so writing a business plan can really force you into the position of being able to go out there, look at all of the components that you need to be taking into consideration and making sure that you have the right idea and that you have the right plan in place to take this to the market. And while you can't ever guarantee your odds of success, we would like to also, though, however, minimize the risk of failure, because obviously business owners are risk takers. So there's no way to eliminate that risk, but can we minimize it with proper planning? Absolutely. So looking at the feasibility of the business concept or idea is a great reason to write a business plan, and we highly recommend it. The next reason being a financial analysis. An idea written, the narrative portion, we've already discussed that, but think about the numbers. What does that mean to you personally? What does it mean overall in terms of, you often hear the term referred to as the bottom line. And that's a common business statement when you're talking about profitability. If you've ever looked at a balance sheet or a profit and loss or an income statement, you know that there's a lot of line items there. And there's a lot that make that up. However, at the end of the day, what's left at the bottom is extremely important. So we need to understand from a financial standpoint what those components are made up of, and making sure that at the end, when you get to that bottom line, that it's favorable for you. If it's not favorable for you, wouldn't you rather plan that in advance rather than go ahead and jump into the business without a plan and then have to figure that out the hard way? So a financial analysis is an excellent reason why you should write a business plan. Once you've got the feasibility, and let's say you've determined, hey, my idea is totally feasible. I've gone out, I've worked with the SBDC, we've done extensive research, I've looked at the finance, the numbers all line up, and the cash flow, the profitability looks very, very favorable. You're going to definitely want to make sure that you have a daily, weekly, monthly, annual operating plan to align with your idea, to align with the numbers and goals that you put in place for yourself. So that is the day in, the nuts and the bolts. So you obviously want to have the plan that's going to map out for you from an operating standpoint, how you're actually going to perform and how you're actually going to conduct your business on a day-to-day basis. So let's kind of go into the feasibility analysis. Why would you want to write a business plan? Let's talk about feasibility. First of all, so you want to think about three things when you talk about, is my idea feasible? You want to look at owner suitability, you want to look at the market, and you want to look at what your capital or financial needs are. So when we're talking about owner suitability, there's a lot that comes into this. This is a great time for you to soul search and determine what your skill set is, what your strengths and your weaknesses are. Make sure that you are ready to lead. Make sure that this is definitely the time for you to step out as an individual. Another thing to think about is, do you have the support system that you need? A lot of people come into the idea of wanting to start a business, sometimes, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons. They think that this is going to give them riches or financial independence. They think that they're now going to get more time back in their day because they're running their own schedule. And they, unfortunately, at times will even sell the concept or the idea to their families that now they're going to get more time with them, when honestly, especially in the early stages of business development, it can be the exact opposite. So we definitely want you to go into this with a realistic point of view, looking at it from your own standpoint, looking at your personal finances, looking at your family and your unique needs when it comes to that, making sure that you're looking at your skill set. Maybe you are, let's say, a really good plumber, okay? And you've been in the plumbing business now for 10, 15 years, and you've decided, why do I want this guy to continue to make all the money while I'm doing all, and he's standing around while I'm doing all the work? Well, there's another skill set that comes with being a business owner. And while you may be a great plumber, understanding and being a business owner is a whole separate part of the equation. So you definitely want to make sure that you look at your personal traits to determine if you have the skill set that you need. Are you ready to lead? Can you take risk? Are you willing to put the blood, sweat, and tears into the business, and maybe even anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week to get your business off the ground? And guess what? If you're not in that mindset, or you're not of that skill set, the other side of that, that's not so bad, right? Can you get the team on board that you need to help you get there? So that's when you look around and say, do I need a business partner to help? Maybe I'm the sales guy and maybe she's the numbers person and I'm not a numbers person. So maybe that's where you can offset where you don't have the skill set, and make sure that you're going out and finding the right team and the right management, or even the right business partner to offset that, so that you can focus on your strengths and take the business to new heights. When you talk about market feasibility, there's a lot that goes into that. But what we want to do is really kind of take our crystal ball. And this can be very difficult, by the way, for startups to look out into the market and try to detect or try to forecast where their minds are, what their wants are, where their needs are. So that all boils down to demand. And then you have to take into consideration, okay, well, we know that the demand is out there. Let's say you've done your research. How much of the market is saturated So that's the supply. So that's where you start needing to look at not only the market and the potential customers that you might get, but you have to also look at how saturated the market is and how you're going to claim your share of that market. So you have to look at the supply side. Who's the competition? Who's out there that's already doing what you're starting out trying to do? And is there some unfulfilled need that's out there? Or is there a way that you can do it better than the competition? So if you're in a position to where you can either fill a need that's not currently being met, or you feel that you can do it better than the competition, then it could be a feasible business concept. The next is capital requirements. You can have the skills, you can have everything that you need. The market can be ripe for you to come in and take your share. However, getting a business off the ground does require adequate amounts of funding. And so you definitely want to make sure that you go through that with a fine-tooth comb and look at what your funding needs are going to be, and make sure that you understand when you can recoup that initial investment and pay back your debtors. So what your profit potential is going to be. Before we go to the next, and we talk about business plans, by the way, and funding, those are the two main reasons for business failure, is lack of capital or inadequate amounts of capital, and failure to adequately plan. So we definitely want to help you avoid those pitfalls, and that's why we're going to focus a lot on that, as well as a few other things while we're in this process of talking about business plans today. Let's talk about the financial analysis a little bit more. When you're talking about a financial analysis, you want to look at, again, the capital requirements and not only figure out, okay, do I have the funding that I need? Maybe you have personal funds. Maybe you can qualify for a loan, but you still don't want to be shorted on those funds. So you want to make sure that you understand everything and that you have itemized and looked at exactly what it's going to take financially for you to start this business. But that's not it, because once you get it started and off the ground, day one, the clock begins ticking. So how long are you going to be able to operate? How long are you going to be able to pay your rent, your utilities, and any other related expenses to operating that business, or otherwise your operating costs? How long are you going to be able to sustain until you reach that break-even point, or that you can become profitable? You want to also develop some financial projections. So that way you can look. Now, by the way, when you're talking about financial projections, most of the time we're talking about for the first 2 years, you want to project your sales, your cash flow, your expenses. You want to do that month by month, at least on average for the first 2 years. So beyond that, you can do, let's say, quarterly or maybe even annual projections. But it's really important because starting out on a business is extremely volatile in the beginning. So we want to make sure that you look at that on a month-by-month basis, and to be able to monitor that, to make sure that you're on track and improvise as needed if you're not actually on track. You obviously, too, want to make sure you do a break-even analysis. So this basically means at what point, and this is at zero profit, at what point can you get to the point where you are no longer losing money on your business? It's very common for businesses to start out in the red in the very beginning in terms of zero profit, or actually negative profit. And so that's why having adequate amounts of cash to cover your operating costs in the first 6 to 9 months is going to be essential. But you definitely need to know how long that cash is going to last you, and how long you're going to be able to self-sustain yourself to get yourself out of the red. In the first place to get there is the break even. And that, again, is where you're no longer losing money and on your way to profitability and getting into the green zone, which is where we all want to be. And you can look at this, by the way, when you look at a break even analysis, you can look at this at 2 different ways. you can look at it. If you are actually selling a tangible product and not a service, you can look at break even in terms of number of units. So if you are a retail store, how many, let's say you're a clothing store, how many articles of clothing do you have to sell to break even? If you're a service-based business, or you just prefer to base everything on sales, you can look at break even as sales. There's a complex equation that comes along with doing a break even analysis. By the way, that's why you have your SBDC here to work with you. Do not get intimidated by the amount of information that is required here and run away from the business plan. Just know that we've got the tools, we've got the ability to help you in the training. We've got 50 consultants again across the state. So just know that all of these things are within your reach. Do not be deterred. Then we talk about, again, the operating plan. This is where you have to understand what your competitors are doing. You also want to know what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are in comparison to your competitors or whatever's out there in the marketplace. Once you understand what it is they're doing, and you have determined that you can do it better, then that's when you want to make sure that you have the processes and the procedures in place to match how it is that you're going to go about delivering that product or service. This can be, if you're actually a manufacturer, for example, it can be in the form of production. What kind of machinery are we going to use? What kind of processes are going to be in place to be as efficient and as profitable as we can possibly be? If you're a service-based company, or if you want to look at it from an administrative standpoint, what are our workflows? Having some predefined workflows in place so that you can determine this is the best way for us to go about conducting our business to save the most time, to save the most money, to service our customers better, to pay our vendors more quickly, to receive our payments more quickly, and make the most profit as we possibly can, is going to be of your advantage. And that does not happen by accident. So having that operating plan in place that aligns with the financial piece that you have already projected out for yourself or forecasted out for yourself is going to be critical. And then again, right down to sales and customer service, how you're going to sell your product and how you're going to best service your customers before, during, and after the sale. So all of that needs to be well mapped out and thought. There's very few of us right now that are going out our doors without a GPS in our hands in some way. And so obviously we may even know where we're going, may have been going there for a very long time, but maybe some of us are trying to figure out how we can now get to someplace faster, figure out the shortcuts. So outlining, mapping out as a GPS these processes and procedures is going to do wonders for you in the exact same way in terms of a business. And then finally, even part of the operating plan is the financial piece. That is obviously part of every aspect of the business plan, because that, again, is the bottom line. But here, from an operating standpoint, you would want to make sure that you're looking at your business goals, and you would want to make sure that you have identified what your targets are. So obviously you see a lot of companies that are out there, and they have monthly sales goals. They have weekly sales goals. They have annual sales goals, quarterly sales goals. They have targets to reduce their accounts receivable days or increase their accounts payable days. So whatever those goals and targets can be, they can come in many different forms. You want to make sure that you've identified that, identify what good performance looks like, and then put an operations plan in place that aligns with your ability or the best ability for you to be able to achieve those goals and targets. Again, if you don't aim for the target, you're going to probably miss it every time. So you might as well create one, develop a map and a plan of blueprint, if you would, that aligns with that so that you are set up for success. So let's talk about some business plan guidelines, and let's really look at this in terms of some do's and some don'ts. Now, as mentioned earlier, business plans can take on different purposes. They can take on different meanings. But let's talk about what you don't want to do. If you are handing this business plan and it has actually been developed for you to hand to someone else, to like an investor or a banker, or a business partner or a vendor for that matter, you've got a business plan in place because you're trying to create an alliance or some form of a partnership. The last thing you want to do is hand in the rough copy, which has typos, errors in grammar, bad formatting, let's say coffee stains, or handwritten document. You definitely don't want to do that. What you do want to do is make sure that this is built together as a greatly formatted proposal that has crossed its T's, dotted its I's, and that it is thorough, and to make sure that it looks great and that everything adds up. Do not take and put in outdated research or statistics into a business plan. We have privy to so much research and information, not only you out there and online, but through the SBDC and other resources that you have. There's absolutely no reason to not be up on the most current data and statistics when it comes to looking at the industry, when it comes to looking at the market as a whole. As you know, everything is changing and we're in extremely dynamic times. So if you're looking at outdated research or statistics, what was relevant at that time may not be relevant now. So you don't want to be operating based off old concepts or old principles. What you do want to do is make sure you're using not only current data, but reliable data. And reliable data is not just Googling and going out there and cherry picking the things that are telling you exactly what you want to hear. You want to make sure reliable means it's a reliable source. And you can often find that at libraries, public libraries, trade associations are great, reliable sources of data. You can also, any website that's out there, census, a website, or anything with .gov or that ends with .edu, probably is going to provide you with some really, really well researched data and a lot of sources to back up the information that's being presented there. And then obviously the SBDC has a wealth of information and resources that would be way more expensive than what a typical small business owner can afford on their own. But we pay for those resources thanks to our funding that we receive, and we're here and we're ready to use that so that you can gain the insight that you need, and it's extremely up to date and it's extremely reliable. So you can count on us for that. Don't make unsubstantiated assumptions. So in other words, if you're going to state a claim, you need to be able to explain why. So if you say you're going to be able to sell $1 million next year, that sounds great. We all want $1 million. What are you going to do to earn it? How are you going to get there? What is the operation strategy? What are your sales forecasts? What are your cash flow projections? There's a lot of things to take into consideration. So if you're going to make that kind of assumption, make sure that you can take that data and that research and explain why. Too much blue sky. And what this means is painting a picture that is not necessarily very realistic. You don't want to do that. The thing that you want to do is obviously point out your strengths and your opportunities, but you also want to definitely identify with your threats and your weaknesses. And the reason why is because obviously there are going to be those things that are going to be out there. You're going to face challenges. And so facing challenges is not unique or a downfall in any way. Not having a plan and not addressing it as to how you're going to overcome these obstacles or minimize the risk. You can't prevent the storm from coming, but you can have an umbrella ready. You can have a storm shelter. in place so that you can, again, protect yourself in that event. So make sure that you're not just talking about the strengths and the opportunities, but also the weaknesses and threats, and make sure that you're addressing how you're going to address those. Failure to comprehend financial info. So we at the SBDC, in addition to the research tools, we can do a lot of the financial projections in terms of you can provide the numbers. We'll help you with the research. We can help you align that research with your financial projections. We have some tools, some really, really cool spreadsheets that, that we have at our disposal we can use for you. But at the end of the day, having somebody put that information into a spreadsheet for you is not good enough. You need to actually comprehend and understand. So do be prepared to explain the financial info and have a full comprehension of what it means to you and how you can use it to drive success going forward. And please don't make generalized statements. So again, specific, detailed strategies. A good example here is we provide the lowest prices and the best customer service around. How many times have we all heard that? That's a very generalized statement. Please do not do that for yourself or for the sake of the business plan. Make sure that you have outlined specific and detailed strategies as to how you're going to best service the customer and how you're going to best claim your share of the market. All right, so let's talk about the business plan guidelines. We have 3 sections, as mentioned, when it comes to the business plan. There's the narrative, is section 1. Section 2 will be financial, and then section 3 will be your supporting documents. So the narrative has various different sections and is usually about anywhere from 10 to 20 pages. This will include headlines, graphs, and bullet points in addition to a very structured and well-written plan. You want to make sure that you use the headlines, the graphs, and the bullet points just simply because you don't want everything coming together. You don't want things to be too wordy. You definitely want to provide go-to areas for the reader as far as them being able to have a good flow and a good comprehension of the information themselves and to not get bogged down in the words. So structuring the narrative section in that way is very effective. The other thing you want to take into consideration with the narrative is you do not want to speak in first person. When you're writing a business plan, you want to write the business plan from the outsider's perspective. So what I suggest that you do is use things like they, she, and he versus I and we and us. So you want to make sure that you're writing it, in other words, from the reader's point of view so that they can have a direct correlation or direct connection with that wording as they're reading the document. Section 2, again, the financial. This will be based on facts and research with numbers that you have justified, by the way, in the narrative section of your business plan. So by the time that you've written the narrative, by the time the financials come into play, they're looking at your sales forecast, they're looking at your income statement, your balance sheet, your projected cash flow statement. There better be enough content, enough research in the narrative section that aligns with these numbers. So make sure that those are interconnected and that everything makes sense. Section 3 will be your supporting document. This will reinforce the first 2 sections. So any kind of, again, graphs. If you're a restaurant, for example, this may be where you would put your menu. You will want to put a personal financial statement as part of your business plan because that's something, if you're going out and seeking out funding, for example, that's something that they're definitely going to ask for. But this is just, this is, again, just the supporting documents, any additional graphs or any additional supporting information that would back the information that you have put in that and make this a more credible document for the reader. Not to mention, not only for the reader, but obviously for yourself, so that when you're referencing this information and you're saying, where did I come up with that? you have a go-to source that you can understand why. And then you can go out there and make sure that you verify it from time to time. Because by the way, when we're talking about this business plan, this is not going to be a one-time thing. This is not set it and forget it. You're going to want to make sure that this is a live working document, and that you are personally accountable to yourself, not only for keeping it up to date, but making sure that you are achieving what it is that you wanted to achieve throughout the plan. And if you can identify or detect any weaknesses or pitfalls early on, obviously this is going to give you an opportunity to turn that ship around a lot more quickly than coming up on that iceberg and didn't even know that it was on the radar. So let's make sure that we have these 3 plans all tied together. And even though we're looking at them as separate entities right now, understand that it is still one document and everything should come together and make sense. So if you want to see what a business plan outline would look like, this is a really, again, a generalized, broad look at what the business plan could look like in the different sections that are typically very critical. We do not recommend that you leave out. There could be lots more sections that could be relevant to your business. Again, we have extensive experience with business planning, and we can determine and help you determine what is the best outline for your business. But in general, description of the business is where you will start. And this is your elevator speech. You don't want to provide a lot of detail here, but you do want to explain who you are, what you do, and what your purpose is. And this is also known as, if you've ever heard of a 30-second elevator speech. So the concept behind the elevator speech is that, again, it's not too wordy, that you can tell someone who you are, what you do, and what your purpose is by the time you start from the top floor to the 30 seconds is over to get hit the bottom floor, or vice versa. So you want to make sure you have a clear and precise and concise explanation of who you are and why you're here. The other are your products and services. So if you're talking about products or services, you want to talk about, this is your opportunity to talk about what you're going to sell, what you're going to offer in depth, explaining what the features and the benefits are. So this is your opportunity to really become closely and intertwined with your products and services, what they're really bringing to the marketplace and what their value is. So you want to understand, what features do you offer and what benefits do you offer? And obviously, how do you offer them in a way that's different or better than your competitors? Another thing is, so there goes the unique selling proposition. That is basically what that is, your unique selling proposition or your USP. And it is what you do that nobody else can easily imitate or emulate, that is uniquely your trait. That can be very difficult to find at times for some companies. But if you're going out there to the marketplace and trying to offer something that's already been offered by a well-known brand or company, you're going to have an uphill battle to try to determine how you're going to offset that. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to do it with price. So you're going to have to come up with something that is uniquely you. And I just encourage you right now to say, we are all unique, okay? There has got to be something, because nobody else is you. This is your business and this is your company. So figure out how you can incorporate that same level of individuality in your business. Use that to your advantage to go out and claim your share of the market, and that's your USP. But then look at the market. Look at it very closely. This is how you can sometimes identify with that. Look at the industry as a whole. What's happening across the U.S.? If this is a well-established industry, there's some things going on throughout the country that can help you detect what kind of challenges have been faced, what kind of trends are actually in the works based on the most recent research. So you want to know industry-wide what is happening with this industry, what kind of barriers are out there, what kind of challenges are upcoming, and what's expected to happen to revenue. The other thing is looking not only nationwide and looking at the industry, but looking at the market, the local market around you, or whatever your target geography is, making sure that you understand the traits or the characteristics of those markets. Make sure you understand where they live, how they live, where they work, what they want, what they like, what they don't like, and make sure that you have a plan and understand how to align your particular product or service with that particular market. When we talk about location, and then you want to have a marketing plan. Obviously, that's all great if you have found something that can help people or that can serve people well or better, but how are you going to make sure that they know you even exist? So you have to have a marketing plan to get the word out or to get your product or service in front of the people. And that comes down to the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. Location, you want to talk about it. If you're going to be a brick and mortar, you want to talk about the convenience of the location, why you chose the location. If you just have an online presence, just so you know, that is just as important now in terms of where you're going to position your company online and how, and whether it be on social media, that is just as much important. So that needs to be explained. Talk about your primary and your secondary competition. Talk about management and operations in full detail, and then describe how you're going to roll out and how you're going to manage your personnel. So you start talking about market feasibility, and especially for a startup business, this can be extremely difficult to pin down. And there's a lot of people that are out there that are going, how am I supposed to get access to this information? How can I go about forecasting my sales when I don't have any history to base this off of, and I'm brand new to being an entrepreneur in this kind of industry? So again, this is where gathering data and where market research is your friend. And this is where you should go out again, look at the competitors, look at who's out there that's doing what you're doing, and determining what is out there. Look at customer feedback, look at the Google reviews, look at some of the complaints that they're getting. Determine where there are weaknesses that they are demonstrating that you can come in and swoop and do this better than what they're doing. Go out and look for new ways. Maybe you have a product that's already been invented, but maybe the use of the product, you can develop it in a way or service it in a way that is unique to you. You can do this by looking at data. You can identify past and future performance, and this can aid you with also your pricing strategy, which can be a difficult thing to pin down, because some people don't know how to price. There's a really fine line there between giving away your product and not making the money that you deserve, and pricing yourself right out of the market. So you definitely want to have the data that you need to adequately price the product so that it will sell, and so that you can continue to meet consumer needs. As mentioned, here are some sources that you can go to. You can look for industry statistics and trends online. Make sure they're reliable sources. Very good one is the U.S. Consensus Bureau, and they conduct research and gather data on a regular basis for the specific purpose to provide industry. There's also a national American industry code. You would want to look that up. So every industry that's out there has a code that they're assigned to, and they even have subcategories. So let's say construction has an industry code. And let's say that you are a general contractor. So you would have a unique code under the construction code that would be to you, that would give you a little bit more, dwindled down or more finite details about your particular industry. So you can go to census.gov, look up your NAICS code, know where you fall, and find specific research to your industry. And then there's obviously Google and trade associations and magazines. When you want to look at the market, who are you going to sell to? As you can see there with the pie, you as a small business owner more than likely cannot, we obviously often hear the generalization that anybody and everybody is my customer, and that's honestly just not true. Most small business owners, when they're first opening, couldn't serve any and every customer that's out there. They wouldn't have the personnel, they wouldn't have the funds, they wouldn't have the inventory. The best thing for you to do right now is to determine what that, out of all of the people that could potentially be a candidate for your product and service, dwindling that down, narrowing that down, and understanding who you could service best, and then creating a marketing strategy around speaking directly to those people. And it could be in a certain age range, it could be a certain gender, certain income levels, education, lifestyles. Again, make sure you get in where you fit in, serve those, and speak to those that you can best serve, and then determine from there how you will capture your share of the market, and try to detect how you're going to capture that share of market. Do a competitive analysis. A lot of people, let's say you're opening a McDonald's franchise, you don't want to just look at your primary competitors. Obviously here, Burger King would be a primary competitor, but so would Publix. Publix would be considered maybe a secondary competitor. Why they're not a primary competitor and why they're a competitor at all? Well, it's very obvious that Burger King and McDonald's are both serving burgers and fries. But Publix, on the other hand, is also a threat, just simply because this is another meal selection. This is another source of nourishment or food that people can easily, as opposed to pulling into your McDonald's and going to your drive-through, can easily turn that wheel around and say, you know what, I'm just going to cook at home today. So you want to make sure that you identify all of your potential competitors and that you have a strategy or plan for all of them. There's lots of different strategies that you can put in place for your pricing and that you can map out throughout your business plan. Again, looking at your competitors. This is where the financial analysis is going to come in, where you understand where your costs are going to lie. Maybe you can look at your costs, mark it up from there. Maybe you have personal financial objectives that you know you need to make a certain amount of money. Maybe you need to look at your competitors, what they're charging, but also understanding what's unique to you and then charging according to that and making sure that you're reaching your financial objectives. And then sometimes just looking at what the customers are willing to pay. For example, a lot of people are willing to pay more to go to a convenience store than to have to go to a grocery store. You're paying for the convenience. So yes, the item costs significantly more in some cases, but you're willing to pay for it for the convenience. You price it according to what the customer is willing to pay. Just know though, with small businesses, most of the time, pricing strategy is not going to be based on being the lowest cost provider. There's a lot of companies like Walmart, Dollar Tree, Dollar Menu. They have economies of scale, and you're not going to be able to outperform them in most cases in the state of pricing. So again, making sure you have and understand and justifying why you're charging more and being able to stand behind that. The second section of the business plan, we'll look at the financial statements. We'll look at the break-even analysis, and you want to mention within that the sources and use of funds. So these are three things you definitely want to address in the second section of the business plan. In terms of estimating your cost, here's a really good rule of thumb. Go out there and look at whatever it is that you need to get the business off the ground. Are you buying a land, or do you need a building? Are you leasing a building? If you're leasing the building, are you going to renovate the building? Do you need inventory in advance? What kind of equipment do you need? Deposits. Don't forget about deposits. Utility companies, lease deposits. These are things that if you don't account for them early on, can put you in the hole from the very beginning. You also want to estimate what your working capital needs are. In other words, what is your monthly expenses? What are your monthly expenses going to be? Rent, utilities. You want to go talk to an insurance agent and make sure that you know exactly what you're going to be required to pay to run this business monthly and on a consistent basis. How are you going to pay your employees? And then understanding, again, your personal minimum salary requirements. Rule of thumb, if you want to know how much money you would need to start your business, you can estimate your one-time expenses. You can look at your working capital. Working capital estimate that you're going to need anywhere from 6 to 9 months to sustain you while your business is up and running, while you're generating sales. Add that amount to your one-time expenses, and more than likely that's what it's going to require you to start your business. I'm going to go through here briefly for you how you might go about building a sales forecast. Let's say you worked with the SBDC. We went out, we gathered a lot of data for you. You determined that for the product or service that you're offering in the geographic range that you're looking at, there's about 12,000 potential customers that are out there for you. But again, you can't service them all. So your actual target market is maybe just Bibb County. So we narrowed that down to 25% of the market. However, you're going to put a marketing message out there, but only 1,500 of these people are actually going to be exposed to, let's say, that advertising on the radio or through Google. And then even the ones that do get exposed to that message, you're not going to sell every single one of them. They're all not going to respond. So maybe 10% would respond to that. We'll call that a conversion rate of 150. And let's say your average sales price is $100. There's your sales forecast at $15,000. Then this would roll into financial projections, again, very quickly, and just a very broad example of what this looks like and how this can all come into play. You've now estimated your sales. Let's say you're making a product and you know how much it costs you to make each of those units that you're going to sell. That's considered your cost of goods. So that would be your labor, the materials, anything production related. And that, if you subtract that from your sales, that will give you your gross profit. However, you also have to factor in your operating expenses, your rent, your advertising, your wages. That will give you, once you subtract that section as well, that will give you your net profit. And again, knowing this month by month is going to serve you extremely well. And as you can see, it's not uncommon for month one to be in the red. If you're finding at this point that you've estimated how much you're going to need to start the business, and you don't have it yourself, then you're going to have to obviously expand out and look for other sources of funds. And this is more than likely where you're definitely going to need a more structured business plan, and we can help you get all of those loan documents together. We know that for sure you're going to need a solid business plan with 3 years of projections. You're going to need a strong personal credit score. And by the way, you're going to need 10% down on that, at least anywhere from 10 to 30%, depending on the bank. But just know they're going to expect you to have some skin in the game and may even ask for a personal guarantee. So that was, again, kind of feeding you from a fire hose, a really high level overview of why you should create a business plan, what some of the best practices are, what that outline might look like for you, and how some of those different sections of the business plan might come into fruition. So whether you are going to have a business plan because you're looking for a loan, just don't make that mistake of some of the other business owners that we have talked to, and we said, how would you do, knowing what you know now, what would you do different? And we said we would have planned better. We would have sat down and mapped out, and we could have avoided so many of these different pitfalls. We could have really, really saved ourselves a lot of pain. Let us do that with you. Let us hold your hand in that process. This is a different journey for everybody. And so what this looks like for you is not the same for anybody else. But the thing is you don't have to do this alone. So why would you? This is how you can get in touch with the SBDC. And if the Macon office, we are assigned by county. And so if your county is not served by the Macon office, that's okay. You can go to georgiasbdc.org, and there is a coverage map that's out there, and you can see which SBDC is assigned to your particular county. And if you can't find that, just give us a call at 757-3609, and we can definitely either hopefully set you up with a consult here with one of our consultants here at the Macon office, or we can set you up with a consultant somewhere at one of our other 18 offices. We're here to help. We commend you. We appreciate you. We wish you the best of luck. I wish you all a happy holiday. And thank you so much for your time and for your attention today.
Thank you so much, Jessica. This was really good. Um,
Thank
I don't
you.
know if you have time for like a question or two or.
I'd be glad to if anybody has any. If not, that's okay. You can
All
hold.
right. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. And while you're typing up your questions, we do have some goodies for you for the week since we're doing this virtual. For the week, if you go to Fall Line and you mention Making Startup Week, you get 50% off of your one beer or something. And also, if you go to Z Beans and mention Making Startup Week, you also get 15% off your coffee or 20%. We'll be sending out that information. Yes, I totally forgot. And I got my coffee this morning, but tomorrow. um, also, we'll have a mixer tonight at 6 o'clock, and please come. Don't. It's introvert friendly. And if you need the information on the mixer, just let me know in the chat, and I will send it over to you. And any closing questions before we go? And thank you, Jessica. That was very insightful. I was taking
Thank you.
some notes while you were talking.
Good. Good job.
Yeah,
Good job.
definitely. Yeah. Any questions, guys? There were no questions. But also, just so you know, like, okay, awesome. Hey, Evan. Evan has this cool business, the science store, and a very fancy mustache. Is there a mentor program that you know about that would help startups to learn more from existing operators?
Mm-hmm. So while there are several mentor programs that are out there, we're considered a mentor program. And there's another mentor program out there at SCORE, SCORE, and they also provide no cost assistance. They're a little different structure. They're volunteers. They don't necessarily have full-time 8 to 5 business hours, so they're somewhat available at night. As far as it being, industry specific, I don't know of anything, but I can tell you that your willingness and your braveness to be able to go out there and knock on some doors, pick up the phone, send an email will serve you well. You'll be pleasantly surprised at the number of people that are out there who understand the struggle, especially in the beginning, who have made it and would be more than happy to be a mentor to you. So sorry I can't be of more help, but I do encourage you to continue to look for that. And if you don't find anything, it's a great idea to reach out to others. It's a great idea. So, but if you can't find anything in particular, smile and dial.
Awesome. Yes. And like Jessica mentioned earlier, there'll be some free sessions throughout for the rest of the year as far as like resources, right?
That's right. Exactly. We have somebody who just asked about marketing specific webinars. So I'm going to go in now and put in the link, type in the link to the chat where you can go and visit our training page. And yes, there are some marketing specific. And just so you know, if there's a webinar that is not out there for a topic that you're looking for, obviously you can have one-on-one consulting with an SBDC consultant. So if you can't get it out there on the webinar, we encourage a combination of both. Attend the webinars and seek out one-on-one guidance. But if the webinar is not out there, reach out and we'll work with you one-on-one.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. This was great.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it.
Have a wonderful day, and thank you for having us part of this. We really appreciate it.
Well, everyone, we'll see you at 6, and have a great day. Bye.